everyone, and welcome to our session on Jacques Lacan. In this video, we are going to discuss the primary work of Jacques Lacan, which is Understanding the Mirror Stage. I hope you enjoy the video. Stay tuned. Now, let us first understand who was this person. He was a French psychoanalyst and a psychiatrist, and he mainly built upon the corpus of Sigmund Freud's work. To understand Lacan's work, we need to understand where he was coming from, and we can understand Lacan's work by approaching him through structuralist and post-structuralist lenses. Well, not having this context can lead to overwhelming of often confusion and even misunderstandings of Lacan's work. What is structuralist lens, or what did structuralists say? They say that human societies and language can be understood in terms of self-enclosed structures and internal rules, which means these structures have a certain set of internal rules that govern them. For every word or signifier, there is a meaning or signified. Post-structuralist lens, on the other hand, determines the connection between the word and the meaning, and it is basically problematized. The self-enclosed meaning-making structures are made open to contexts, which means that there is no fixed meaning between the word and the meaning. There are no fixed meanings. It all boils down to who said it and how. Lacan, along with other psychoanalysts, are essentially trying to arrive at a theory of human self and behavior. Since they are writing at a time in European history wherein the philosophy of structuralism and post-structuralism dominates, they tend to give a theory of human self along those lines. Even though Lacan didn't say himself that he's a structuralist, we can still find traces of structuralism and post-structuralism in his works. It is hence important to remember that these theories are populated by the values of the time of the authors, whether they seem to be rebelling against it or not. Lacan's theory of self collate with Saussure's linguistic theory, Freud's understanding of the unconscious, Derrida's deconstruction, and Levi Strauss's structuralism. Now let's get to the mirror stage. Mirror stage seeks to offer us an explanation regarding the formation of human self. This theory is highly inspired by the theories concerning semiotics, as Lacan believed the unconscious is structured like the language. The implication here is that the unconscious escapes being pinned down to a fixed meaning. This will later boil on to Derrida's theorization of differos. The child is in a state of wholeness, and it is in a state of nature when he is in the first state of psychosexual development called the real. The real is the first state of psychosexual development. Then comes the imaginary. The child then comes to the second stage, wherein he finds himself to be indistinguishable with the objects. He doesn't have a defined self yet. This is where the identity starts forming due to his identification of himself in the mirror. Here is where the mirror stage comes in. The process of self-identification that carries the child into the realm of the symbolic, the language, is called the mirror stage. The child identifies himself through the body parts he sees in the mirror. In this stage, the child begins to perceive language and begins to create an integrated self-image. Lacan argues that a child is physically uncoordinated and doesn't understand the objects outside of himself. When he looks in the mirror, he perceives a center for his self, which is basically false. It is an image outside of himself. This is the basis on which his identity can be constructed for the external world. This is crucial for his identity construction in this world. Following the post-structuralist principle, Lacan says that the signifier, child, and the signified image are not the same. These are two different entities, and it is the image indeed that marks the child's entry into the symbolic realm of father or language. The mirror image is the connect between the child's internal world and the external world. This external world is governed by symbolic or the father. The image that a child sees is a fictive one, governed by the laws of language. The father principle governs these laws. This is the symbolic realm which rules over desire and language. The mirror stage is about making identifications with an image in the mirror that gives a sense of unified self in image but not in experience. This entails the nature of desire, wanting to possess an object that promises unity, wholeness, fulfillment, which is outside of us. The object in the mirror is the unity that the child doesn't experience in itself. It is an imaginary identification that the child creates with that image of himself in the mirror. This initiates the child into the world of signs and symbols that are defined by the society and that are governed by quote-unquote sexual difference, exclusion, and by absence. One way to understand the contrast between the real and the symbolic would be to consult the feminist critique of psychoanalytic texts. Kristeva writes that in the pre-Oedipal stage, the child doesn't have access to language, and hence unconscious constitutes of a rhythmic pattern which is not meaningful. The mirror stage initiates the child into desire and into the symbolic, which is to say that the stage initiates the child into the world that is based on constant deferral of desire. The contrast to this is the child's primal wholeness and connection to mother's womb or body. In this stage, the child had no language or meaning. Lacan's theory ultimately understands the law of the father to initiate the child in the societal meanings. It means that symbolic is dominated by the father. The mirror stage initiates the child into a realm of desire, a state of constant deferral. That is a state of wanting, having, and wanting more. And the real is not to be captured by language because it signifies the unconscious, the inexpressible unconscious. Thank you so much for tuning in.